Welcome, everybody, to another installment of the Extreme Anime Radio Podcast. It is February the 16th, 2022. We are here a little bit late, but for a good reason. Before we introduce that reason, let me introduce my usual co-host, Mr. Neff Canuck. Hello, sir.
Good evening, sir. How are you?
Good, and we're going to find out who our guest is right now. Well, you know, if you've read all the reports. It is the man behind Extreme Anime Radio, Mr. One and Only Keiichi-san.
I was early.
What were you saying?
You were out of practice. That's the problem.
Oh,
no, I meant, really?
Oh, come on. It's only 45 seconds, gentlemen. What's going on?
How's it going?
It's been a long day.
Someone's feeling saucy.
Like habanero.
Oh, boy. So
that's
Kay,
a little too saucy for me.
Well, Kay's occasionally joined us through the streams we've been doing on Twitch playing the various trivia games, but I think it was last year since you came on this particular podcast stream. So how are things going with you, Kay?
Going all right.
Good.
You know, living through the pandemic as everyone else.
Right. And hopefully we're climbing back out the way things are going and the way I'm reading things in the news these days.
I don't think it's ever going to go away, truly. I mean, let's face it, we're going to probably end up like Japan was 2 or 3 years ago, where, you know, you just wear, you know, you go out, you wear your mask, and that's just what you do.
All right.
You know, you in fact, you start making sure your mask matches, so that way you know, it doesn't ruin your Gothic Lolita outfits or whatever you're deciding to wear.
I should have brought my gray mask with me for this show. No.
I only have one mask that I use, and I properly sanitize and wash it. It's a Maple Leafs mask, so basically I'm literally a walking symbol of social distancing between the Leafs and the Stanley Cup.
I can't say too much because, I mean, I'm here in Dallas. The Stars are not much better.
Well, the problem with the Dallas Stars is you can see there's progress. When it comes to the Leafs, it's like, oh, they're progressing quite well. Except that magic P word that they can't seem to do anything with. I don't mean penalty shot. I don't mean penalty kill. I mean playoffs.
Oh, I was going to say you mean just points.
Oh, no, we got lots of those. But it's those playoffs, that nasty P word that the Leafs basically shrivel up and die.
Oh, boy. Well, I just want to say out on the offset here, we make the normal disclaimer at the start of our episodes. The views and opinions expressed are not necessarily those of Extreme Anime Radio. Tonight we'll just blame Keiichi-san for everything. What do you say?
That's how it normally went anay. So
yeah, exactly.
By the way, it's probably my fault that, just as a heads up, I don't show you on Twitch yet.
No, I'm streaming.
I'm showing, according to Twitch, you're still showing as offline. Because I was good. Oh, there it goes. Finally. Oh, man. Twitch was just...
You're called lagging, my friend.
I literally refreshed it since we started talking 5 times, and it kept saying offline, 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 offline.
Interesting.
Are you watching this with a 2400 baud modem, my friend?
Oh.
2400 baud, huh?
Yeah.
No, actually, so just to be fair, I actually have gigabit symmetrical.
Excuse me? And
yeah.
You're that lagged?
Up and down, I think. That's what it means.
Gigabit symmetrical. So it's 1 gig up, 1 gig down.
I know what that means,
all the way.
God, but I'm just going, how could you be that lagged if you have that fast connection?
Oh, I guarantee you it's probably Twitch's the way that Twitch has got the their various endpoints. The endpoint closest to me hadn't caught up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because that's the fun thing about, you know, working in the business like this and working in IT is I understand how those technologies work. And let's face it, when you have cache, you know, when you're caching things across different various regions, it's not always up to date. There could be anywhere between I have actually seen sometimes where it's like, oh, hey, you know, we pushed the main. Let's see how quickly each region updates. Okay. Look, I can see up in Canada, it's ready to go. I can see New York's got it. Dallas has got it. California 4 minutes later. Oh, hey, look, it finally showed up. Because, that's just the way these various caching services. So blame Akamai or whichever caching service they're using on their front end.
Liz says, Attack of the 50-foot lag monster.
Only 50 foot. That's not bad.
Of course, now it's really funny because I hear you guys in real time, and then, of course, I see the 20, 15, or 10 to 15 second lag for the video. So it's like, I hear Neff, and then Neff's mouse opens up.
Yeah, I'm sharing the Discord video. Can you see it?
Oh, I can see the Discord video.
Okay.
I'm in there just because so I can see the chat room.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. That makes sense. But, so yeah, we have some topics of discussion. Well, we could probably take those topics and throw them out the window because we're here with Keiichi-san. How do you feel that Extreme Anime Radio, something you created 21 years ago, is now old enough to drink?
Well, I mean, oh God. It's still weird to think that something that I created 21 years ago is still around in some way, shape, or form. I mean, it's definitely not the same as it used to be.
Right.
But that's, let's face it, that's all part of the growing and changing of the entire market. Because I can remember the first time we had to deal with licensing problems. And for those of you who are not part of the know, the whole internet-based radio licensing scheme for smaller stations has always been contentious. It was always problematic. It was always an issue. No one ever saw it behind the scenes because, for when I was managing the station, I was handling all of that. But and JR can speak to it once he took over and had to start dealing with it himself. They hate you. It really just they don't care.
And it was not too long after I took over when we ran into the issues with the Copyright Royalty Board not renewing that provision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was and it doesn't help you that you have no friends. That's what it came down to. Is you really, as a smaller broadcaster, you had no friends because if you went too small, well, then you had pirate radio on the left-hand side where they were just like, we're just going to do our thing and ignore everybody. And then you had, even the live 365s weren't really, who were supposedly a coalition of small broadcasters. They were never on your side. And you had, of course, all your big market ones who wanted to shut all of us down because it, sort of ate into their margins of what they want to do, the Clear channels, CBS, all those big broadcasters. It you would have thought that they would have wanted to be on our side because what we were asking for would have actually helped them out. But they were much more interested in getting rid of competition than they were actually making it a level playing field. So
right.
And so you end up where you are today, where I don't think there's many independent internet radio stations anymore. There's a lot of pirates, and then there's the big boys. The Siriuses, the CBS radios, the Clear channels.
And I'm gonna make a full disclosure here. I've been involved with this project almost as long as as it has been in existence. Oh, and by the way, Mystic White Dragon, I want to read what he said. Thanks for creating Keiichi-Net Radio XAR. Keiichi-san I make great friends with. Just wishing I'd be more active with it, but time difference at all. Of course, he's in Japan, where it's already... he's ahead of us. It's in Thursday already.
I was to say, he's in the future.
But yes, this is the first time in the last few weeks I filed my taxes and I filed a Schedule A for hobby income.
Yeah, I remember the first time that for me that was just after I turned the year after I turned it over. I was like, man, I don't have business income anymore. That's really okay. Let's be frank. I don't have business losses to file anymore. Because it was just. I mean, we tried really hard to try and do everything we could, because I mean, it was a labor of love for all of us.
Of course.
I mean, everyone who was involved with the station, all the way back to, because JR, I think you started in right around year 2, I think.
02, I think.
Yeah, because the station started
01.
01 officially. There was some false starts before then, but yeah, I think officially 01 is sort of the date we sort of, or the flag we sort of put in, because that's when we actually had something that was 24/7.
Right.
And it actually had a real name and everything else. There was a lot of false starts before then, because we were broadcasting stuff on Shoutcast in and out for probably a year. Because when I started broadcasting stuff, I was living in North Dallas in my apartment with my roommates. That would have been 99, I think. Wow. And then it was you joined up just after when I'd been living in College Station for about 5 months, I think, at that point in time. Mm-hmm. So it was when we were still down in College Station, because we had that stupid wireless. If the winds blew too hard and made the water tower in College Station rock, it would actually take our internet was purely wireless. So we were actually going we had a antenna, a dish pointed at the water tower. We were bouncing our signal off the water tower over to the tower where the actual it was, to be fair, it was pretty revolutionary for the early aughts. We were getting almost a megabit per second with that, and it was pretty reliable until major storms came through and the water tower rocked just a little bit, and suddenly we would go, oh, there goes the signal. Oh, there goes up there. Oh. You'd watch the signal degrade and go up, and go up, and it would go up and down and up and down.
Back to the rotary phones.
Yeah, sort of, kind of. But yeah, it was, and it made it through many moves and many, because I mean, then afterwards, moved it a couple places in College Station. Then we moved it up to Denton, and then we moved it around Denton a couple times. And then, right before I moved to Carrollton is when I was still hosting it. I think you were running it at the time, but I was still hosting it.
Right.
In Carrollton. And then it was sometime in Carrollton where I finally turned it up. We were able to turn the whole thing over.
Right. And then now that old station computer sits in my dad's apartment, and that's the computer where we do all the taxes on and everything.
Yeah, I still have bits and pieces. I still have actually figured out that the old sound card we used to use for the station finally died. And I was like, oh, well, for some reason it actually took an electric hit.
Oh yeah.
Not sure what happened there. Yeah, it sucked, because it was a $200 XLR graphics card or sound card. Mm-hmm. Missed that card, because I mean, oh my god. Well, you guys on the station heard it. It sounded fantastic. I mean, it was actually a professional grade. For those of you who wonder, it was an ESI Julia card, is what it was called. And it was, it allowed us to actually put in unbalanced. This was an XLR. What we did. This is going in the back door a little bit. When we did the live shows, at least in my apartment. So this was 6 people. This would have been with Britain, all that company. We had a voice mixer coming in, all XLR coming in out of that, and then we had unbalanced quarter inch coming out of that, going into that sound card. That sound card actually supported 4 mono or 2 stereo quarter inch connections coming into it. And since it was unbalanced, that means it was actually came in at very high quality. Plus, we were also doing it at 24-bit sound instead of 16-bit sound, which is what most people did. And so you actually got that higher fidelity coming into SAM. Now you probably lost a lot of that on the smaller streams, but when you got to the 128 stream, you'd hear that, because there was actually you could actually hear silence. You could actually hear crisp highs and lows, and it actually came through really nicely. I loved that system that we had built up.
And you remember, folks, that back at the time the station started, and the area we were talking about, sound cards were a thing. Is something that was more or less you needed for a computer, even that wasn't running a station. Now, not so much. Although I do see them sell these sound cards online if you really, really want, 28 channels of surround sound. I mean,
Well, but here's the thing though, is that even for professional grade, you're still buying a sound card because the sound cards that come built into most motherboards nowadays are great, but you don't want great when you're recording audio that's going to be mastered and put onto a CD or mastered and put onto something. You really want that excellent.
right.
Now, you can get excellent. That's the main thing that's come down in price a lot is you can get excellent for not that much nowadays. Whereas, I think when I first looked at doing this, when we first looked at getting it and we first started off, the microphones alone were like $150, $200. And then, you'd have to get another, $300, $400 mixer and then a $500, sound card. By the time we actually moved to that professional grade setup, and by professional grade meaning I could have actually had people on instruments in there, and it would have sounded pretty damn good. You could get, like for example, what we're using. We were using a 6-channel XLR mixer, stereo mixer. That was $150. Which was pretty inexpensive. And by the way, this was actually not a off-brand either. This was, I think that was made by Sennheiser.
Sennheiser?
Yeah, I think it was a Sennheiser mixer. But it was a 6-channel XLR. Plus, it had 2 balanced. What's the name of it? RCA jack, RCA inputs. So you could actually do it full 8 channels. And actually, when we did. When we used to do the pre-Acon dance things where I would basically be practicing for the dance.
Right.
Let's be real. That's what those really were. Is me experimenting, me going, well, I can take up some time, let's turn it into something. I would actually go into the mixer. I wouldn't even bother trying to wire directly into it. I'd go into the mixer, and I would mix the audio and voice on the mixer. And then the mixer would come into the come into the sound card. Now I actually think about it. I think we actually got off of Athens. We were using I think by the time we finished, we'd actually, because that Julia card was weird in that I could actually take the card out, pull off the actual card piece, swap over, so literally flip the piece that actually plugged into the so you have that little L bracket on most secondary cards, right? And that L bracket, the L bracket that actually gives you the output, I could unscrew that card from that, flip that. It came apart into 3 pieces. You had the bracket, you had this middle area, and then you had the main card. On that middle area, one side of it had quarter inch. The other side of it was, you flipped it over, you got RCA connections in the exact same spots where the quarter inch were. So all you had to do was flip the card over. It did require shutting down the machine because you're pulling a card out. But you could flip that card over, and you would either get quarter inch or RCA, depending upon what type of inputs you needed.
Wow!
And then you plug the main part. It had a connector. You connected it back to that connector. You plugged it back into your PCI slot, and boom, you got quarter inch, or boom, you got RCA. It was great. I mean, look it up online sometime if you guys want to. It's called an RCA Julia, and the A in that Julia is an actual @ sign. It's really weird, but it's made by ESI, which I think is a German company. But it was very intelligently designed. I was highly impressed with that card, and we used that card for about 6 years. It lasted longer than the computer that we're running the station did on multiple occasions.
I remember power supply goes bluey from time to time, as well as other components.
Well, yeah. Let's see here. I think we blew multiple power supply. Oh my God. JR probably remembers this story, but this is going to be probably new for Neff. So the first time we took what was called then Keiichi at EX2, but the first time we took the station to a live event, like we were going to broadcast live from a convention. So we took the station's computer, which, mind you, at the time was in a full tower. And by full tower, I mean this thing was 3 feet tall, full metal tower. We got it there. We shut everything down. We moved to the backup stream. which I forgot if that was still where we were with Live 365. We were running it off of Live 365,
Yep.
or was it? It was either that or JR was running it or someone else. I know we had a couple different ones in the thing, but I think at that point
it was too early. So I think it was a Live 365 deal.
I think it was still, I think we moved to the Live 365 based backup stream, which means we only had like 200, 100 songs in rotation when that happened.
Mm-hmm.
So we unplugged everything. The station was working just fine when we unplugged everything. We get it there. We hooked it up. First thing that happens, we get pop fire, and the power supply blows. So here we are in Austin at the convention trying to find a big enough power supply to actually do this. Because, this was been in the early aughts. It's not like you can go run down to your local Best Buy and buy a power supply like you can today. You had to typically go to a computer retail. You had to actually go to a computer specialty store.
Circuit City.
No, not even Circuit City at that point in time. You could get a full computer, but you couldn't get computer parts. Like today, I can go to Best Buy and I can go buy a reasonable power supply. I'm going to get charged 20% more than I should, but I can buy a reasonable power supply. Back then, you couldn't do that. You had to go to a computer specialty store. I think what we ended up doing is somebody donated a power supply out of their computer at home. I can't remember who it was. Might have been. I can't remember who it was. It was someone we knew in Austin who was a listener / friend of the station. It was part of the Austin crew that I knew out there, and had literally brought us his power supply from his computer at home for us to run the thing. And so I think 4.5 hours after we had intended to start, we finally were able to bring it on and actually start broadcasting live. This would have been at UshiCon 2, 3?
Right.
I'm trying to remember which one. I think it was UshiCon 3 that we did it was UshiCon 3 that we did that first live broadcast. On the hotel gave us a 1 megabit connection, I think, from the convention floor. But yeah, that's a great way to start off the first time ever doing it. Is the first thing you do is you blow a power supply.
My favorite was the one. We were in one of the cons in Houston, I think. And that was, I think, the first time I actually flew over to help you guys at a con, was the one in Houston.
That would have been Oni, I think.
Onicon
1.
Right. And we were in the hall. We were playing music. We're cranking out. Everybody's having a good time and dancing. We're having all sorts of contests. Meanwhile, we have 3 or 4 people come by asking us to turn our volume down because we were interfering with a Northwest Airlines conference of some sort. Remember that, Kay?
I don't think I was there when they came by. I don't remember. I remember someone telling me we got asked to turn it down.
Yeah.
Because I then went to the con chair and they went to the hotel and
Right. No, I was asked 4 times on that first day.
Oh God. I didn't realize it was Northwest Airlines. That's hilarious.
Now Delta.
That was not a big hotel. That was if I remember correctly, that Onicon was that first Onicon was not in it was in a decent hotel, but it was not in a big hotel by any stretch of the imagination. Because that was Onicon 1 was what, 1,000 person convention, give or take?
Small.
Oh God. To think, it's funny for me, Now, mind you, I went to conventions probably starting in about 98, I think. Back with Acon 10. I think Acon 10. And I went all the way through. I think I stopped going to conventions right around 2015 just because things just got too out of hand with them, most of them. But I can remember with Acon 9, we had... And it was like we thought it was a fairly large convention. I think they had numbers in the 600s.
The 9th one.
I think it was 600. Because I think it was 10 or 11 where they finally broke 1,000, and we were like, oh my God, this is huge.
Right.
Nowadays, of course, you got the Anime Expo at 50,000, 100,000 people.
Oh yeah.
Acon nowadays, I think Acon went bankrupt, and there's all sorts of fun there.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the last major Acon that I went to was still about 15,000 people.
Mm.
That would have been 5 or 6 years ago.
Right. Still
So the
decent
thing,
sized, yeah.
and then you got, of course, you got what is it that's over in DC, which is also really big.
Katsucon?
Katsu, yeah, Katsucon.
Yeah. I think it's either just happened or it's about to happen.
Yeah, and then you got New York Comic Con. You get these, all these conventions that are like, people are like, oh, they're reasonable sized at 10, 15,000 people, and I'm like, dude, those are all huge conventions. I don't think you guys understand how small conventions some of the conventions we went to. The first UshiCon I went to, which was the first Austin convention, I think had 300 people.
Mm-hmm.
And that was for them. They were like, oh my God, too many people showed up. And Neff would know this. Neff is in the convention circus.
I was going to say
circuit. I'll say circus because it really is.
Well, yeah, I was going to say I used to be just one of the traveling performers. Now I'm one of the trained monkeys. I started with Anime North when it started, like as an attendee. That was back in '97. I think they said, I think it was about 500 people. Again, and that was a lot. That was more than they were expecting. It was a 2-day thing. I mean, the only reason I even found the place, it was a part of a school, University of Toronto Missionary Institute, was they had a giant life-size Stellar Mars cutout. And I'm like, okay, now I know where I'm going.
I don't know what I'm doing today, but I know now it's this.
Yeah, it's like, whoops, there we are. That's the address I was looking for. Thank you. Yeah, and, over the years, Anime North has gotten bigger. I've become staff. Some would say slavery, but hey, slavery will eventually die.
Oh yeah.
They don't let you die in the Anime North. You do not. No. You stay forever. Although with the revised date, I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to survive this con.
Is it in the middle of summer?
Yeah, July 15th to the 17th.
Oh, you get to feel my pain. You get to feel my pain.
I don't think I am physically capable of feeling that pain and not ending up in the hospital again. Did it once.
Acon, for those of you who don't know, Acon takes place the first weekend in June in Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that gives me flashbacks to the one time I was in Texas during that time. And, as a Canadian, you walk into 110 Fahrenheit and you're just like, help me. I want to go home before I melt.
This is what melting feels like.
It's like the air conditioning in my car is like, you're not from around here, are you? No. I'll get you cool eventually.
Yep. And then imagine, people wearing, 12 layers because they've got these really ornate costumes. Because, let's face it, Acon, with it being as big as it is, there were some serious costumes I saw there that were great. And then, of course, they'd have to go outside to do a photo shoot or do anything, and you see them come back and their makeup's half melted off, and you're just like, oh,
I'm melting.
Then there's the other side of the equation that's happened to me at Anime North. Full costume, full downpour.
Oh, that happens on occasion. We've had that.
Well, I was wearing velour that particular con.
Ooh.
Velour and cloth seats in a car. That was a most nauseating squish sound and feeling. Try driving like that.
Yeah, that's sort of gross.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I was staff for many years. I was staff on, let's see here. So I was staff at Acon for 10 years because I stopped being staff when our staff had left and Acon decided they wanted to go in a quote unquote different direction. Mind you, screwing over the entire staff that I was on in the process.
I think I remember hearing something similar to this, but yeah.
Yep. I'm pretty sure I told you about it, JR, but yeah, that left a very, after that point I was like, you know what, I'm just never going back to the convention again because I don't want to be supporting people who act like this.
Yeah.
I dislike when I'm lied to, and I know I'm being lied to because I can talk to the other person because I'm still great friends with them, and they tell me exactly what they told you. And have the email showing that they also put it in writing. So yeah.
The fun times we're having about reminiscing about the good old days, the good and the bad. Kava brings up Anime Matsuri. That's a whole other can of worms, I think.
Oh my god, Anime Matsuri. I think I remember that one starting up. I will say I miss a lot of the people. Like, I miss Ushikan a lot. I miss the staff. I still talk to some of their staff members over Facebook every so often. But because I was really great friends with most of their head staff out there, and they were a great bunch of people. I mean, they were one of those groups of people where, because being that I worked with a number of staffs, and let's face it, because of where we were and what we did, 85% of the time, like, we weren't handled by events because we were doing the dances. We weren't handled by the guest coordinator because we're also got stuff on the floor. So with every convention, with the exception of A-Kon and Anime Fest and maybe one other, we were normally handled by the con chair. Because the event staff didn't know what to do with us, and the vendor staff didn't know what to do with us, and then you had the guest staff, and we were sort of spanned all three, and they're just like we ended up with either at the con chair or somewhere close to there. But of the conventions I've ever dealt with, Ushikan's staff, who were also, let's face it, I knew them from the convention scene when they started Ushikan. I knew them because they'd been coming to, like, I met the con chair of Ushikan at A-Kon 10. I actually have a picture of him and his wife at A-Kon 10, dressed up as Keiichi and Beldandy.
Anyway, we're reminiscing a lot. You see, folks, we're just letting Kay have the floor, and we're totally fine with that because he deserves it. He put in a lot of.
I don't deserve anything. But it is fun material. Let's face it.
Of course. But if there are two things I would hope to touch on tonight, maybe we have a little time to discuss. I do want to talk about COVID travel updates that we know, but I also want to talk to you about. We made this joke, Kay, because I think you might have started this joke actually, referring to some big game that happened last Sunday.
Oh, wait, you mean referring to it as a Superb Owl?
Yes.
I don't think I came up with that. I'm pretty sure I stole that from somewhere.
Oh, okay.
I really, because let's face it, I've seen, because I actually know, I think if I remember correctly, I saw it on like an ad in like Houston. It could have been that certain Houston mattress store that got a lot of attention because of a certain betting owner.
Gallery Furniture.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
It might have been them. It might have been someone else. I do remember, though, seeing it on an ad. I'm just like, that's a real funny way to get around the rules about calling things by calling that particular event by its name in your advertising and instead using the exact same letters with a space moved over one.
Right. So he's referring to, Neff, if you're not aware, Mattress Mac Jim McInvale. What were you going to say?
I think we actually heard of him in Canada because I think it was him or maybe someone closer to our side of the border, on the other side of the border, did the same sort of thing where they bet, and if they lost, it was either if they won or they lost, the customers would get free merchandise.
Oh,
Magic Mac has done that number of times, but this year he actually got it because he actually bet like $2.5 million on.
I think it was more than that.
I think it was more than that. He bet a lot of money on. Was it the Bengals? I think it was the Bengals.
Ooh. I hope he was going for the point spread and not for a win.
Well, I think no. Oh, that's what it was. No, it was because it was two bets. One of them was straight up win, and one was the point spread. And it was $2.5 million apiece.
$9.5 million.
Okay. Yeah, it was a ridiculous amount of money.
Well, after watching the first half of that game, I was going, does anybody want to score in this game?
Yeah,
like,
right.
It was seriously like, this is a hockey game, literally. Like, nobody's scoring. I mean, that's less scoring than I get.
Right. There was
it's not saying much.
It was a good game. There was some good commercials. The halftime show was very good. Yes, I say some commercials were good. And
there were some bad. Oh my God, there were some bad ones.
Nev can give a little review because even though he lives in Canada, once every 3 years he can watch the American commercials.
Well, technically it's 2 out of 3 because I use an antenna and I live close enough to the border that I can get most of the Buffalo American stations reliably.
Okay.
The CBS station is a little wonky. This year it was NBC, which for the most part was pretty stable. Now, would it have been stable if I had pushed it to 4K? Maybe, maybe not. But I was only watching, the 1080 signal.
Right.
And I'll say this. Some of the ads that had all the buzz about them, unfortunately, I'd already seen because some of them got released to a streaming service up here the day before.
Oh no, I actually saw a number of them on YouTube before they premiered on.
That's what they do too, yeah.
Premiered on the Super Bowl.
But it's like, wait a minute, you make up this big deal about this being released, at the Super Bowl, and then I'm watching Premier League on Saturday morning, and I'm seeing these ads, and I'm going, oh, that's what the fuss is going to be about tomorrow. Okay. It's not the most horrible thing in the world, but... And then you saw the ads on Sunday, including ads for a thing that I despise because it's basically a Ponzi scheme. For those of you that don't know what I'm referring to Bitcoin, and it's associated, crypto. I mean, like I said, it's a Ponzi scheme. If you're at the top,
that was
you'll
a
get money.
Weird commercial. If it's the commercial, I think you're talking about
the one with the QR code just floating around.
No, well, okay, there was two.
There was the
QR code one floating about. And then there was the guy from what's his name? He basically runs SNL.
Lorne Michaels?
No, not Lorne Michaels. I'm sorry, thinking of a different person. The guy. No, I think I said right. Lorne Michaels, right? Hold on, I gotta look it up.
He's the executive director. He's been there since the show started, and he's Canadian. Which explains a lot about Saturday Night Live.
Larry David.
No, not Larry David. Not Lauren Michaels. Larry David. There was a commercial with Larry David that was also crypto too.
He's going through history basically.
Yeah, going through history, naysaying things that were major accomplishments. And yeah, that ends with him doing it about Bitcoin, and I'm like, I don't know. He might be right on the last one because I will keep my opinions about it to myself, but there's a reason why I own exactly 0 crypto.
As I said, I mean, all I can say is when I see what crypto causes, including the price of video cards to become stupid. Actually, no, not stupid. Stupid implies that there is a bottom. There ain't no bottom. I mean, if you try to get a modern video card right now, be prepared to sacrifice your firstborn, your left leg, your right arm.
I'm still running a 1070 GTX.
Well, there's a reason when I bought my super machine at the time, I bought the most expensive thing I could get my hands on because I knew, even back when I bought it in 2020, I wouldn't be waiting for a 3000 series card because I'm not waiting that long. I'll be dead by the time I get my hands on one. Thank you.
I've got a question for you. In my back pocket, Kay, you'll love this. I have an old American Airlines priority tag, a portion of a tag over here that's been sitting in my back pocket for...
That old. It's not that old because it's got the new logo on it.
Yeah, I know. Well, I'm making the joke. Can I take a picture of this and then make $10,000 selling it as an NFT?
No, because it's got a copyright logo. Now, my American could try and do that, but
Yeah.
that seems silly. But wait, it can't be that silly because didn't who was it? Not Bethesda. It wasn't Bethesda. Who was it?
Are you thinking EA?
Was it I don't think it wasn't Bethesda. Who was it that gave as a bonus to all their developers an NFT, and I'm of art assets from the game, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Was it Ubisoft? It was Ubisoft. That's who it was. Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Did that. And I heard about it because I saw it came up on one of my feeds, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Why? That makes no sense.
Okay, I'm reading something as I was searching for this, and apparently there's a company that offers NFT horse racing, digital horses that players can race against each other. You buy them for real money, and you transact just like a real horse race. Is that even legal?
Depends on where you're at. Depends on if betting's legal in your local in your local authority. Yeah, it really.
I know New York State actually opened up for a fair bit of betting because I see the ads from the American stations in Buffalo, and they're pushing
online sports books.
Yeah, just
so
frightening.
Texas still, you cannot, with the exception of, I think horse racing is the only exception that they have. You can bet on horse races, but you actually have to be at the horse track, I think, to actually place those bets. There's still no remote or internet-based betting on that. But I think if you're at the horse track, you can actually bet legally on stuff going on. I think you can bet on anything if you're on the horse race track's property. I think it's some weird. I think there's a weird twist to that law.
Okay, I would have thought, and I'm just gonna play dumb Canadian here for a minute because I am. I would have thought in Texas of all places, they'd be as close to Nevada when it comes to, you want to gamble on something? Go for it. We don't care as long as we get our cut.
Absolutely not. No, this is Texas. Any things that make certain groups of people wad up their shirts, and go and no, absolutely not. We still can't buy alcohol on Sundays.
Blue laws.
Okay, we have government-run liquor stores up here. They're no longer the sole proprietor of liquor except for heavy stuff, and they're open on Sundays.
Yeah. No, I come from a state where I could get hard liquor after noon. I lived in Illinois. You can get hard liquor afternoon, at the grocery store. You can literally go to, it's like, go Sunday, Sunday, just after church gets out, you go get your groceries, you go get your hard liquor, you get all that stuff, you just go straight through. Texas, I can buy beer and wine on Sundays, but there's no sales of any alcohol before noon on any day. And then, no, that's not true. Beer and wine sales after noon on Sundays, and no hard alcohol sales on Sundays at all.
Okay,
Texas is very much. Texas is actually a very conservative socially state. So things like that. There are a number of things. Gambling is a huge no because it's the nanny state. No doing wrong things. Now you can somehow mix betting and guns together. You'd probably get it through no problem. Because guns are good, betting bad.
Wait a minute, Russian roulette. There you go. Right.
Yeah.
I guess if you could find a way to bet on that and not murder someone in the process, that's possible. But
wait a minute, in Texas, it seems that you can get away with a lot, including making dead bodies if you know the right people, etc. Which always kind of like, what? Huh?
Yeah. Castle doctrine is ill.
Mm-hmm.
Going back to blue laws, though, Bergen County, New Jersey has a blue law. So this is apparent if you go to Mitsuya Marketplace, Japanese supermarket, on a Sunday. You cannot buy any alcohol and you cannot buy any appliances, including your rice cookers, your teapots, your electric kettles, that sort of thing. No appliance sales on Sundays.
That's a weird. Appliance sales is a weird one.
That toaster there is the devil's work.
Yeah.
I'm not letting you buy it on Sunday.
Yeah, that's bizarre because but once again, yeah, Texas is like that, and Texas is also one of those states where not every county allows for alcohol sales in the first place. Like the county, and sometimes it's not even county; it's city. For example, the city of Fort Worth, Tarrant County is dry, only allows beer and wine sales.
Right.
The city of Fort Worth was wet, so they allow liquor sales. And I live in Fort Worth, so I could literally drive 1 block north, and I can't buy hard alcohol, which would have been the city. That would have been another city here in Tarrant County. I drive, literally drive 2 blocks, and there's 2 liquor stores right there. In fact, that other city, because they were losing out on money because of the liquor sales, just became wet.
Okay, now I'll tell a little story quick. We actually allow, of course, the sale of weed up here. It's legal, the government controls it, etc. Now, the trick was the government said, okay, you want to sell weed, that's fine, but the individual cities and municipalities have to approve it. Okay? So, Toronto, okay, fine, we can have weed shops, we don't care. It's because they're Toronto. My town, right next door. Oh, we don't want weed in our town.
But you can go a block away, and go right over the Toronto line, and there's probably like 4 weed stores right there.
Pretty much on the border. And they complain now, well, we're not getting all this business. Everybody's, going to Toronto. And I'm like,
well, yeah.
You didn't want it, so congratulations. Duh.
Yeah. You could have had it. You could still have it. You could change your minds, but no, yeah, it's like that in Texas too. And Texas is, we don't even allow. Do we allow even medical? I think they're just now considering laws for medical in Texas. They still haven't passed though. So I think Texas, though, it's sort of funny because to get CBD sales, they updated their marijuana laws to do an exception for CBD. And in the process, accidentally made one of the variants of one of the pot variants completely illegal because they only reference a certain version of THC. Because I think there's like most marijuana falls under like alpha THC, but there's also like beta THC.
I think so.
And I think if I remember correctly, the law was written in such that it only outlawed alpha THC, not beta THC.
I'm going to comment to that to say the drafters of that legislation obviously didn't know their weed very well, did they?
Or the drafters of those knew exactly what they were doing and hoped that their colleagues were clueless.
That sounds just as plausible too.
Really quick, because we're already at 5 minutes to the top of the hour here. Canada and Japan, really, both countries have been in the news with regards to easing restrictions. Canada, probably not related to the truck convoy protest, where they decided based on the science they're going to kind of ease things up on the international arrivals. So now, if I want to visit Neff in Canada, I have the option of taking a PCR test or a rapid test. If you're selected for testing when you arrive in Canada, you don't have to quarantine until you get a negative result. So this is all positive news.
Yeah, I was going to say, and I'll make this really brief, the Flu Trucks clan, with all the crap they've pulled, as far as I'm concerned, the bunch of them, they're getting now what they deserve, which is the Emergency Act dropped on their heads.
And what is the Emergency Act? It was
It
something
used
that has never been used before, apparently.
it used to be known as the War Measures Act that Justin's father used in 1970 against the FLQ.
I see.
Which was a terrorist organization in Quebec that had kidnapped 2 British ministers and actually killed them both. Or killed one of them at least. So it's like, yeah, like, okay, when you get a Trudeau mad, they eventually snap. And I think Justin has snapped and said, you know what? Since the Ottawa police didn't do anything, and in fact, the Ottawa police chief resigned because he basically admitted he was such a, lost cause. The Premier of Ontario basically went to ground, disappeared. No one could find him. It was like a giant game of Where's Waldo. Wow. Turns out he was off snowmobiling while this is going on. And so it's left on, Justin Trudeau's lap to go, okay, look, this is getting stupid. It's dangerous. We have to do something. And so, in comes the Emergency Act. Now, some of the truckers have left. Some of them apparently are willing to go down to martyrdom of some type. Although I'm not sure what kind of martyrdom they'll get, because it's not like they will be, drug out into the street and hung up. They'll just end up with like tens of thousands of dollars of tickets. Their trucks will probably be seized and sold to pay for those tickets. So if they owned that property, well, that's on them. But if they took somebody else's property to this protest, that's going to get messy.
So hopefully, things will settle down. And as far as Japan goes, looks like they're going to allow foreigners back in except for tourists. And as Mystic pointed out earlier in the stream, only 5,000 arrivals per day or something like that into Japan.
Oh, I mean, that is now. I was going to say 5,000 is more than 0, right?
Yep.
And one thing I was going to say on the thing about Canada too is that I don't think most of these people realize that. I know in the U.S. at least, you can't get a commercial license if you have a certain class of misdemeanor on your record. That is an automatic forfeit of your commercial trucking license.
I think because it's provincial jurisdiction, I couldn't say for sure what will happen to the various, truckers who've shown up from various provinces. As I said, my thing is like, they're going to end up with $10,000 worth of fines. They're going to try crowdfunding. And guess what? The crowdfunding tap got turned off on you, you dummies.
But no, I was saying about Japan. So it looks like if the Prime Minister hasn't announced it yet, he's going to announce it very soon. Obviously, I didn't check anything over the news wires since we started streaming a few hours ago. But it looks like long-term stays, such as students, skilled workers, and also short-term business travelers will be allowed back in, which were the same measures when Japan had that few weeks of window around October, November, where they briefly reopened the borders before Omicron came out. There's been a lot of blowback from the international community saying that Japan should not discriminate against foreigners. They believe that foreigners are bad, bringing Omicron into our country. That is the opinion. And there have been lobbying from Japanese businesses, Japanese airlines, and also schools who've been waiting to send students to Japan and vice versa. Japanese schools waiting for students. So it looks like you still going to be 5,000 a day. There are probably tens of thousands still waiting to go in. Quarantine is currently 7 days. It's probably going to be reduced to 3 days. And if you test negative again, you're done with the quarantine. There was also...
Which that quarantine is awful. I actually saw a streamer who actually had to go through the 7-day quarantine.
Was it the Australian streamer whose name escapes me?
It was a British streamer.
British, okay.
But yeah, Sea-Dog VA. I actually saw he actually did he's got a YouTube video out there of some of his Twitch streaming he did while he was stuck in quarantine. And now he's a British citizen living in Japan.
Right.
Has been living there. I think he's got his Japanese visa, but he still had to do the 7-day quarantine. The room was so small First off, the guy is like 6'2".
Mm.
I think he could lay down end to end, and he could literally touch both walls.
Yeah.
It's really bad, but there's a couple streamers on YouTube, but that was one I saw, and I was just like, oh my god, that seems awful. I think if I didn't have the right things, I would definitely go crazy.
Right, and I'm not sure if we're talking about the same one, but I did see another streamer comment on the quarantine from his quarantine room, which happened to be at an Appa hotel near Tokyo Skytree, so it wasn't all that bad location-wise. But that was his quarantine.
If you could leave.
Yeah. After he finished his quarantine, then he had to go back to the airport to be processed and then go and finish his self-isolation wherever. But he complained that he had to wait at the airport in a chair for 7 hours without food or water while they're waiting to call different people for processing and stuff for the quarantine.
Oh, jeez. No, that must have been a said different person, because he didn't cover having to go back to the airport. We just saw he'd come from the UK to Japan,
Right.
coming back home essentially. He was actually flying from his parents' house back to his house.
Wow.
Yeah, he had to sit. I think he had a 7-day. It was. I want to say it was either 3 or 6. All I know is the room looked like it was maybe 10 by 10.
Yeah.
Maybe 15 by 10. It had a bed, it had a tiny desk, and that was about and a small little bathroom.
Right.
It was small even for Japan. Like I have been to Japan. Okay, I have been in a small business hotel room in Japan, and I noted how small it was. It made that room seem big. We had my in the room I stayed in, we had 2 singles, and you could almost not get between them. And then you had to sort of turn sideways to get between the 2 singles and the wall unit where the TV was. And then, of course, you had a reasonable sized bathroom.
Mm.
It looked like it was about half that size.
Yikes.
So
yeah,
it's a big deal, and like we were saying, it's probably going to take Japan a lot of time to process these arrivals that are pending, even before they get to possibly doing further easing of restrictions and allowing tourists in at some point.
Yeah, I would, and I hope that happens. Because I have it on my. I know it's on my calendar to go back.
Oh, yeah.
Eventually.
I would have gone like a year ago if this didn't happen. So.
Yep. Especially now that I can fly nonstop in Haneda.
Yeah, I've never flown to Haneda. All my flights to Japan have been into Narita and out of Narita, except one time I flew into Nagoya. Nagoya is a beautiful airport.
I've only been to Narita Airport, so but I mean, considering how far away it is from Tokyo, I didn't think the experience was that bad. I mean, I took especially because they make it so easy.
Oh yeah, you could take a commuter train, $15. You're in the heart of Tokyo.
Oh, I did one better. I did a little bit better than that. I got the so for those of you who have never been to Japan, and if you're thinking about going eventually, if you go to the JR store if you fly to Narita Airport, you go to the JR store at Narita Airport. There is a special type of pass that you can buy that is only for people who hold foreign passports. You have to have a foreign passport to do it. I think when I bought it, it was $75 US, and it gets you the Narita Express to and from. And you don't have to, and it's not like you have to buy your ticket there of what time. You just have to sign up for the Narita Express 24 hours in advance. So you get essentially a coupon for your return trip.
Right.
And then $50, I think it was, on the Tokyo Metro. So, I mean, and if you think about it, the Tokyo, so you got $50 on Tokyo Metro. The Narita Express, I think it's $20 each way.
30,
give or take.
I think, yeah.
30. So you're getting about, you're roughly $120 worth of stuff for $75.
Right. I think you're talking about the Suica card.
I don't remember what it was called. I just remember I went to the JR station and we bought 2 of them, and it was, it came out to be a very, very good discount, and we still used up all the money. Oh, and it's refundable.
Yes.
Trip. It's probably is. Yeah, I think
that's the
the
Narita Express in Tokyo ticket. I think it was. It's probably what you got.
Well, what we got was, I mean, it was just one card that you paid one price and you got all three.
Right.
But and then you could, as I said, the actual Metro card you could use on the subway, or actually, I think you can use it theoretically anywhere Tokyo subway or anywhere JR runs. Because I think it was a JR branded card. But
right.
Yeah, if you had anything left over of it, if you added money, I think if you added money to it and you had anything left over, they would refund that minus a 15% fee, which was great because it's just like, okay, fine, heck, we'll just put, oh hey, look, we're almost out of money. Oh, here's another 20,000, let's put another 2,000 yen on it, and away we go. Right. Don't matter. It's not like the Oyster card that I've got sitting in my. That I have sitting in a wallet with all my other Metro cards that still has, I think, like 8 pounds on it.
That'll give you a few trips on the tube, yeah.
Is it the Oyster card? That's the
Oyster cards for London, yeah.
Yeah, for the London Underground. Yeah, I got an Oyster card in there. I think I've got one from Boston Metro from the MTA that's got some money on it. I've got all these cards from various transit authorities that have some insignificant amount of currency left on them.
I do the same thing, and I got some stuff in my safe. I don't want to pull it open now, but I kind of do the same thing.
Yeah. The only one I don't have anymore is my Tokyo. It's the one I have for my JR line because I turned it back in and got the money back.
Which I've done once, I think. But Neff, that was fun when you visited. When Mary and I went.
Yeah,
we got you your own personalized card, didn't we?
Yeah, and I still have it. I know where it is actually. It's sitting in a fire safe actually. Right. But it's like, oh yeah, this is cool. Oh, you can personalize it. Oh, this is nice.
So
I mean, I still remember we got to the airport. You saw me, and we get the taxi cab, and I'm like seeing the taxi cab has these fancy, for lack of a better term, doilies on the windows, and I'm going, yeah, this is clean. Like cabs where I'm from, they're disgusting. I mean, they're why Uber exists. This is like, wow, Uber would never survive in Japan ever.
Right. You don't need it.
Exactly.
That, you wouldn't need it because one, the Tokyo Metro. I mean, I think my wife and I went there for 3 full days. And I don't think we ever had to not take the Metro because the Metro could get you within a block of anywhere you wanted to go. Now, to be fair, I had to use Google Maps to figure out which Metro lines we had to go and transfer at because it's a maze. But yeah, I mean, it's probably one of the most, when it comes to coverage, it has probably one of the best coverages I've ever seen of a metropolitan area.
Oh yeah.
And then I see, as they're finally building out construction.
What Mystic said, I do know that Uber is really it does have a lot of popularity in Japan because of Uber Eats. Uber Eats, I've heard is really popular over there because most places don't deliver. You have very limited delivery,
right?
And you always know with Uber Eats, you can just go order it and have it delivered.
Right. I'll be very quick about taxis because we have to wrap things up here. But yeah, I've taken taxis a few times in Japan, and I can comment that they're wonderful. And I've always reserved them in advance. There was one time where I actually called an English hotline for the Nihon taxi service, and that was the time when I had to tell the dispatcher. That was when Mary and I were in Japan. We want to stop at this hotel to pick up Neff, and then we want to go to the train station in Ueno to pick up the Skyliner so we could take the Skyliner to Narita Airport. So taxis for short range travel, at least, to go from a train station to at least someplace that might be out of the way is amazing. And these Tokyo taxi drivers, all the credit to them for knowing where these places are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we got lucky in that the hotel when we went, the hotel we stayed at was literally half a block from a station.
Oh yeah.
Well, JR knows where we stayed because he sent me a guidebook. Like the second day I was there, I got a call from the front desk because a package had been delivered by Amazon, I think. And JR had sent something to our actual hotel. I'm just like, what?
That was a long time ago. Wow, I remember that.
Oh, got the guidebook.
Wow, how old is that? Jose's travel tips. Yeah, it's kind of redundant for me to give travel tips right now when the borders are closed, but hey.
They'll open soon enough.
Yeah, exactly. But
So the story about Japan I always love telling, and it's just because it's so funny and it's so. If anyone who knows me and my wife, it's so very us. We were in Crystal City. I say, is that Crystal City? The little, you go across the Rainbow Bridge and
Odaiba.
There's that little, yeah. The little entertainment district that's over there. And we were in one of the two really large, I want to say malls, but they're not really malls, but they sort of are malls.
Aqua City?
What's that?
Is it Aqua City?
No, it wasn't Aqua City. It literally had like a bunch of restaurants and stores and things like that. I mean, it was essentially like an American mall, but it's not a mall.
Oh, okay. I think if I look at it on a map, I'll tell you real quick. I think I know what you're talking about.
But anyways, we were there and we were, there around dinner time and we're looking around for a place to eat and we saw a Tex-Mex restaurant. And my wife and I look at each other and we're like, oh, we have to try this. It actually started one of the two traditions we sort of do, which is one, we always try to go to McDonald's somewhere. If I'm traveling, I always go to McDonald's because it's always interesting.
Of course.
Because it is so different in so many places. Indian McDonald's is such a different experience than you'll ever see. But anyways, we went to this Tex-Mex place and it was really nice. And we got sat out by, out in the back by the windows. You had a great view of the sunset going down over the Rainbow Bridge. It was a beautiful scene. And we ordered Tex-Mex and it showed up. Well, I mean, the first thing that should have been suspicious is I've never had Tex-Mex served with a salad bar that had potato salad and things like that on it. That should have been sign number one that perhaps maybe with better options. And like many things, this is gonna fall into stereotypes, but there is a stereotype that Japan, when it comes to things in Japan, a lot of times they are aesthetically correct, but sometimes very functionally wrong. And that's exactly what it sort of happened here. I think we ordered enchiladas, and they looked at, chicken enchiladas. They looked absolutely, fantastic. White cheese smothered over the top with a red sauce and with a tortilla, and very good. The chicken was cooked fantastically. But the sauce was more cumin-based, not pepper-based.
Oh.
The cheese was mozzarella cheese. That cojito cheese. And as I said, it was one of those things where it was functionally correct. Or, I mean, it was aesthetically correct, but functionally very, very wrong.
Adapted for Japanese tastes. Just like mayonnaise on pizza.
It was just they saw a picture of it and goes, "Oh, hey, we can do this." The funniest thing, the best part about that meal was the refried beans because it tasted like it literally came from an Old El Paso refried beans can, of which they put 2 soybeans on top as decor. The Mexican rice was Japanese sticky rice with tomato flakes in it. Yeah.
Oh.
Okay, that's the functional equivalent. There's a company that actually will take a Hyundai and build on top of it to make it look like a 1969 Ford Mustang Mach 1. Excuse me? It might look like a Ford Mustang Mach 1, but underneath, it's a Hyundai.
Yeah, I'm about to say, it's very obvious the moment you hit the pedal that this is not what you say it is.
It's like, wait a minute, you hit the pedal, and the little hamster goes, "Are you kidding me?"
So, Kay, there were two other places that came to mind. The one that said Venus Fort, and then there's another place called Dex.
I can tell you. So I can tell you. I know which building it is. Let me go real quick here.
Okay.
See if I can. I know the reason why I say I know what building it is because I have a picture of one of the stores we found on the first floor, and you can't. It's one of those places that no matter where you went, whether it was Japan or anywhere else, you will never forget it because it was a giant store with a big, gigantic wiener out the front. It was bright red, and the name of the store was Condomania.
And with that, we're going to go to the closing commentary.
Which apparently I didn't realize is a chain in Japan.
Oh, yes. I've seen one in Harajuku. But anyway.
If you have any questions, concerns, compliments, or complaints about this Twitch stream, or anything you hear on Extreme on Radio, or anything you hear on Extreme on Radio, drop us a line at extremeanimeradio@gmail.com, or check out our social media pages. You can get to them by going to linktree.com/anime radio. There you'll find links to our Facebook page, our Instagram account, our Twitter account, our Discord server, and our YouTube channel. And don't forget, you can get archived versions of these podcasts at anchor.fm/anime radio.
Now remember, if you're a long-term fan of Extreme Anime Radio, you know that Kay said a lot worse on the air. So.
Oh yeah, and as I said, that's actually a literal store.
He's right.
It just struck me when you're like, you go. That's not one of those things you expect in an area like Harajuku. Sort of expect that because you're in that area where that sort of stuff sort of exists.
Mm.
But the Odaiba, I think it's right. Yeah, Odaiba is where that I was not expecting that. While also turning around and looking and seeing the giant Sega arcade, and then you get on the train and you come across the giant Gundam, which the giant Gundam was there when it had just gone up when I had gone. Outside of I think that's a Gundam museum. I think that's there if I remember correctly.
Right.
But yeah, I've said much worse, and that's just one of those things you just look at it. He's like, I would have been ready for this anywhere else in Tokyo. Like there are sections of Tokyo that I expect the weird.
Right.
Harajuku, I expect the weird. Over in the technology district, I expect Akihabara, expect the weird. Over in this little fairly modern reclaimed entertainment district where they have the Gundam and things like that, I wasn't getting the weird vibe there, and so it just threw me off.
Well, that's like, when I accidentally almost got dragged into a place and JR and Mary Hop were like, no, and dragging me away. And I'm like, why? They explained to me and I'm like, oh, thank you for saving me from that place. Thank you very much.
Was it one of the special bars?
Yeah, I think it was. Yeah.
Yes.
There's different levels of special. I'll let people think about what different, because there's different levels of special. There's the rip you off special, and then there's the tourist trap special, and then there's the special.
You mean the happy ending special?
And
there's those too. I was more thinking about the hey, there's lots of pretty women. These aren't women.
And with that, I think we're going to end our show tonight. Kay, anything you'd like to say to our viewers for our 21st anniversary?
I think the station is going to go get drunk after this.
Yes.
Especially after
it
the
already
conversation
has.
we had here. I think it's going to have to just like the station be like, I got to purge myself of all of this.
Kay, we really appreciate you taking the time tonight to join us, and
It was fun.
It was it was definitely a lot of fun. And if Japan's borders open to tourists again, we have to bring you back. We'll do a Japan travel show of sorts. What do you say?
I could do that. My information is very out of date because it's been 10 years since I've went to Tokyo.
Mm-hmm.
But I have no problems with it. I can talk about what little we saw in 3 days, which, by the way, a whirlwind tour of Tokyo in 3 days. Don't do it.
Not to say.
That was the most exhausting 3 days. My wife now, at the time she was my girlfriend, but she nearly murdered me on that trip because, I move at a much faster pace than she does, and that was very painful for her. But yeah, it's definitely we had a lot of fun. We went, I actually have never been to Akihabara, so I can't comment to Akihabara. The only place we went to or the only major area we went to Harajuku because that was just a focus. We wanted to go to Harajuku, Shibuya,
Right.
and the Meiji Shrine. We did all that in one day.
That's good.
And
that's a good sampling there.
Oh, that's Shibuya Harajuku Meiji Shrine area is absolutely a interesting part of town. Just like I think in the day 2, I think we went to was it Ueno Park? Is it Ueno Park that has the big giant? No, that's not Ueno, isn't it? That's the one that the big shrine that sort of with the big bell that everyone goes to.
Was that Asakusa?
That sounds right. All I know is what we remember of that place is not the actual shrine itself. The shrine itself was really cool. Don't get me wrong, but what we actually take note of is we found that was the only place in Tokyo where we actually saw a store dedicated to shoot. Oh gosh, these names shouldn't be slipping past me. I just literally watched an anime from them yesterday, 2 days ago now. Excuse me. But oh gosh, come on, the Totoro and all that. My brain is just not working today.
TikTok, it's getting late. That's why.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, but it was the studio who did Studio Ghibli. It was a Studio Ghibli store.
Okay.
Like in the middle of nowhere. We were just walking down this. Actually, it wasn't the middle of nowhere. We're walking down the main drag going towards the shrine, which everyone knows this. It's a well-known tourist area. You've got all these festival shrines going up towards the shrine. So you know probably exactly which shrine I'm talking about.
Right.
But off to the edge, besides going to a California pizza kitchen where we had Tokyo pizza, which was doing an onion and mayonnaise pizza. And it was canned tuna. I don't understand why you would put canned tuna on a pizza when you're in Tokyo. It makes me sad. But anyways, there was a Studio Ghibli store, and my wife nearly broke me because she's an anime fan, but more importantly, she is a nut for Ghibli. Nut for Studio Ghibli. And so walking in there, and especially when they have a Totoro, that I had to tell her, dear, we can't fit that into our luggage. We can't fit that into 2 luggages. I don't even think I can cargo ship that home. It was bigger. It was literally about 7 foot tall.
Oh boy.
Yeah, it was literally a like Huggle Totoro.
Oh man, I remember once when we bought enough things that we had to buy luggage before we came back because we had to put extra stuff in it. But
so that's why I always bring an extra empties. We normally when we were flying abroad. We will bring an empty suitcase just for that reason.
Of course. Hey, Neff, anything you'd like to say to Kei as we wrap up the show?
Well, thanks for all you've done to give us this wonderful platform that's morphed and changed over the years. And although you weren't directly responsible for it, this platform gave me a shot at doing something that I've grown to love, and for that I must salute you greatly, sir.
Don't. Thank you, but you guys have made it your own on your own. That was all you guys, So.
And everybody else who's helped over the years, of course, we can't thank them enough. And really quickly before I sign off, one of the cosplayers of Sarah Yoshida, her birthday's today, Naku Invisible Wonders cosplay, so I want to give her a quick shout out. Happy birthday, Naku. Hope you're having a wonderful day. Hope we can work together again on some more projects in the future. And with that, we will close things out. We will decide when we're going to come back onto stream to continue Great Ace Attorney Chronicles, so we will keep you posted on our social media platforms. But for Kei and Neff, I'm JR. We thank you for watching and listening to the Extreme Anime Radio Podcast. We'll see you next time, and remember,
Keep on looking out for the Extreme Radio podcasts. And don't forget, archived versions of these podcasts are available at anchor.fm/anime radio. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.